Good morning. How we doing today? Welcome to the first day of summer, longest day of the year. Who's ready for extra sunlight this morning? Or the whole day, I guess, right? Now, who enjoys summer? Okay, and who's more of a winter person? Wow, we're split. Or actually, winter might have even won out a little bit. I am shocked by that one. Well, welcome to the summer. So glad you're all here. We are in our second week of this series called The Odyssey Remix. We started this last week. Figured with the Odyssey movie coming out early July, I believe it is, we should do a series based on the Odyssey and some of the ideas, some of the themes within Homer's epic journey home for Odysseus. We started this last week, and this morning, the title of our sermon for week 2 of the Odyssey Remix is Wandering. Anyone, you walked in here this morning and you feel like you're just wandering through life right now? I mentioned this map last week, and I said that it would feature prominently within our series. And today, our sermon is on this map. Last week, we talked about the Odyssey being this 10-year journey that Odysseus takes from Troy back home to Ithaca. And what do you notice about the journey? You see that red line right there? What do you notice about that? Is it a straight line home? It's all over the place. Not only that, look at this distance. It's really, it's long. It's going to take you a while, especially a couple thousand years ago. It's going to take long. You can't jump on a plane. But notice he ends up all the way over here. He's over here. This is a picture of wandering. You ever feel like you have a destination, you're trying to get somewhere, you're going from Troy to Ithaca, and yet you're over here in this area, and you're like, how did I get this far away from my destination? Does life ever feel like aimless wandering? For Odysseus, if you read through the book, or I'm assuming, because I haven't seen the movie yet, no one has shown it to me, Christopher Nolan, I don't really know him. If anyone has him on speed dial, let me know, and we can check the movie out together before it comes out in the theater. But Odysseus, he is at the mercy of the gods. He's at the mercy of the sea. As he is traveling throughout the waters, he becomes shipwrecked. Wherever the current takes him, he is forced to go in that direction. He's trying to get somewhere, and yet the current is sweeping him far, far away from his desired destination. And if you're anything like me, life from time to time feels that way. You're trying to get somewhere, but you encounter a rip current or a rip tide. There's a current. You're trying to go one direction, but the current is so strong that your life keeps getting pushed further and further off course. And you're trying to get to Ithaca, but you end up all the way on the far side of Italy wondering, how in the world did I get here? And how in the world did I ever get home? Now, for the ancients, the sea, the water, was a place of chaos. It was a place of uncertainty. This is why all throughout the Old Testament, you will find all these references to the sea monsters. It's why it was so radical that Jonah would be willing to flee to the sea. That's how much he was trying to avoid the calling that God had placed on his life. He fled to the sea. If you were alive in the ancient world, the sea is not the place that you would flee to for safety. You would flee in the opposite direction, because the sea represented everything that was uncertain, that was chaotic, that was fear-inducing, everything the opposite, basically, of what you wanted for a life of serenity and calmness. Why we get to Jesus, and when Jesus walks on water, it was for the disciples, this is a God who can actually calm nature. This is a God who can instill peace in the midst of the storms of life. This is why in Revelation, the final chapter, we're told the sea is no more. For the ancients, the sea was the place to be avoided at all costs. And yet here we have, in the story of Homer, of Odysseus, we have a man who is in the middle of the chaotic sea, continually being swept off course. Now, this is a story from 3,000 years ago, talking about, one of the main themes is wandering, being off course, being away from home, and then being committed, trying to get home. And I think we see parallels of this story all throughout the Bible, including a passage of the Bible which probably in the past 5, 6, 7 years or so has become one of my favorite passages in the Bible. And it's probably not one of the ones that when someone asks you, hey, what's your favorite life verse? This is probably not one of the ones that's going to come up. But let me show you why, for me, this has almost become a life passage because it provides a lot of solace for me when life is turned upside down, when life is not going the way in which I expect, desire, or want it to go. Here we are in Acts chapter 16. Paul, he has this mission in life where he wants to go and talk about Jesus all around the world. And he has some companions with him. So we're told, Paul and his companions, they traveled throughout the region. Of course, we're going to have a map here in a moment, so we'll get there. Because a lot of these places, you're probably wondering, where in the world? Like, I know Hawthorne, I know Dobbs Ferry, I'm okay with the Bronx, I'm even okay with Cortland Manor, but Phrygia, Galatia, yeah, I haven't seen that one on my Google Maps recently. Having been kept by the Holy Spirit from preaching the word in the province of Asia. Now, when they came to the border of Mysia, they tried to enter Bithynia, but the Spirit of Jesus would not allow them to enter that land. So they passed by Mysia, they went down to Troas. During the night, Paul had a vision of a man of Macedonia standing and begging him, come over to Macedonia and help us. After Paul had seen the vision, we got ready at once to leave for Macedonia, concluding that God had called us to preach the gospel to them. Here's a map. Now, here is this missionary journey we're told Paul is taking. He is trying to come over here. We're told that he was trying to preach about Jesus here in Phrygia and Galatia, but that path was blocked. They kept on traveling. They tried to enter Bithynia. See right here? They tried to go into that orange territory, but that place was blocked as well. We're not told exactly why, pure speculation as to what it was that prevented Paul and his companions from traveling over there. So they continue on their journey. And mind you, there were no trains in the world at this time. They weren't traveling by plane or helicopter. They didn't even, get this, they didn't even have automobiles. They were traveling by foot. And if you're going from here to here, I mean, it's a couple day journey. It's not just one night. I mean, how long are we talking? Are we talking like a week or two? Are we talking a month? Did they go really slow? Like, you have that person in your party, you're trying to get somewhere and you're always waiting for Charlie. And you're like, come on, we have to get there. Let's go, Charlie. Pick up the speed a little bit. We have no idea how long it took them, but then they end up over here in Troas, and then Paul has a dream. He has a vision. Hey, come on over here. We need some help over here in Macedonia. And so Paul's trying to go here, and yet he ends up over here. I mean, this area in here is just a time of wandering, a time of uncertainty. Let's talk about the story a little bit so we have all the details clear as we dive into it. First, Paul and his companions, they had a desire to preach the word in Asia. I think we would all agree this is a good desire, right? Paul wants to talk about Jesus. His life has been transformed. He's met the resurrected Christ. Well, surely you would think that God would then go and pave the way for him to go and preach the word in Asia. But what happens? That desire was blocked. You ever have a desire? It feels like a good desire, and yet everything that you're trying to do in order to see that desire come to fruition, it seems like the current is sweeping you far, far away from that desire, and you're wondering, you're crying out, you're praying, God, I thought this was from you. This is a good thing. I'm trying to help people. I'm trying to do something good in the world. Why are you preventing this desire from happening? Have you ever prayed long and hard for something that is a good thing, and yet God doesn't seem to be answering that prayer? I think it's safe to say we've all been there before. probably more times than just once. And so that desire was blocked. The story continues. Paul and his companions, they had another desire, pretty much the same desire, but it just changed ever so slightly. Instead of province of Asia, let's go preach the word. We'll talk about Jesus in Bithynia. Again, is this a good desire? Yes. Yet what happens? That second desire was blocked. It's like they're going up for the slam dunk and someone just comes right in. You're like, that was goaltending. And God's like, no, that's not goaltending. That's just the way life works. That second desire was blocked as well. Story continues. Well, then Paul had a vision. And that vision came to pass. Third time's the charm. I guess we could have called the sermon Third Time's the Charm. The third time, finally, that vision came to fruition. Now, a few notes about Paul's journey that we just read, which then means a few notes about your life as well, because I think there's a lot of wisdom that we can take from this story, from these passages. Number one, this story normalizes our wandering moments. And for me, this passage has been extremely helpful for my life because I feel like I always get caught up in wandering. You feel like you hit the road, you're on the right track, and then you get swept off, you get taken off that road a little bit. So for me, I just feel like I'm always back on that wandering path. It tells me, and this brings great comfort to me, because we find this with the great missionary Paul, who you would think every single desire that Paul had, these good desires, you would think that they would just happen immediately. That guy would snap his fingers and say, Paul, you're the great missionary Paul, so I will do whatever it is you desire because I believe that's in alignment with what I want. And yet, this tells me that being lost and aimless at times in life is normal. If you're here this morning, and this is you, you feel like you're wandering far away from home, if you feel lost, if you feel directionless, if you feel as if there is no aim in which your life is moving in, I want you to take a deep breath because you are okay. And you're going to be okay. And maybe it doesn't feel like it right now, but you will make it through. Remember that map that we looked at? Paul was wandering around. We have no idea how long he was wandering for. The truth about our wandering experiences, and I think there's plenty of stories in the Bible to support this, is they don't normally last just a day. Our wandering, aimless, directionless experiences in life can last months. They can last years, decades. They are not comfortable. This is true, but you will be okay. So please take a deep breath and know the Spirit is with you. I came across this quote this week, or actually a couple weeks ago. I knew I was going to work on this sermon. I just tagged this one because I'm like, ooh, this would be perfect. It's from the novel The Bell Jar, which was made into a movie. I've never read the book, but this quote, love it. I'm not afraid of being lost. We all wander off from time to time. Again, here's this wisdom. If you are wandering, it happens to all of us. It's normal. It's part of the human experience. Take a deep breath. It happens to the person sitting right next to you. So you can look at them and say, you're going to make it. And so am I. It's the fear of never quite finding myself that keeps me up at night. I mean, think about Paul. That first desire, we're going to go preach to the province of Asia. And then that was blocked. Don't you think Paul was a little bit discouraged in that moment? He was following God. He was doing the thing that God had placed on his heart. And he's like, God, this is my calling. This is the fire. This is the thing that you have placed within my heart to do. Don't you think Paul would have cried out in desperation, why, God, are you stopping me from fulfilling the thing that you have placed in my heart? It happens once. It happens twice. A little more desperation the longer that our times of wandering go. I love this quote. The fear is that I will never live into my truest calling, the thing that God has placed on my heart. We'll come back to this quote a little later. Number 2, something to note about the story and about your life. This story normalizes the ambiguity that we can face when following God. Sometimes we're told following God, straight line. You become a Christian, smooth sailing. And if you're not hearing from the Spirit, well, then you're not trying hard enough. Wrong answer. No. There is great ambiguity at times in following God. It is not always crystal clear the next step, or 2 steps, or 3 steps. Sometimes you need to be patient. You need to be silent. You need to wait and listen. What we find here with the great apostle Paul is he is following God, and yet he's not quite so sure at all times where God is leading him. Number 3, this story shows every good desire you carry will not be fulfilled. I know that's depressing. I apologize for writing this on the screen. I wish this was not true, but this is what I have found to be true in my life and from many others that I know. Every single good desire that you hold in your heart will not be fulfilled. We're human, and we have those stinking human limitations. Yes, every good desire will not be filled. Some desires will not see the light of day. But number 4, here's the positive news, because we can't end on bad news. So here's the good news. The Spirit is leading you somewhere good. Even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment, the wisdom of this passage, the truth that we find here is that you are being led somewhere good. Where is that place? Oh, well, it may look different than what you envision or expect. Always seems to be the case. This has happened time and time again for me. But where is the Spirit leading you? It's the place where your joy and the world's pain meet. One of my all-time favorite quotes, Debbie's probably heard this quote like 15 times, but it's all right. Here's number 16 for you, Debbie. The place is from Frederick Buechner. The place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. Think about the vision that Paul had. During the night, Paul had a vision of a man of Macedonia standing and begging him, "Come to Macedonia and help us." Where is the Spirit leading you? It's the place where your deep gladness, where your joy and the world's needs meet. It's not always crystal clear, but I truly believe that this is where you are all being led. Now, this year, I started reading this book. This is by far my favorite book that I have read this year. What to Make of a Life by Jim Collins. Anyone else? You're working your way through this one, or am I the only one here? Okay, well, by next week, I hope that that's changed. I was introduced to Jim Collins in seminary. Anyone ever hear of the book Good to Great? One of the most iconic business books of all time. Well, instead of talking about why businesses thrive and succeed, Jim Collins said, I want to write a different type of book for my next go-around. And for 10 years, he devoted himself to studying the lives of other individuals. And the book is subtitled, Cliffs, Fog, Fire, and the Self-Knowledge Imperative. What Jim Collins realized is probably an insight that you've all had as well. In life, there are cliffs. There's moments when everything's going well, and then you just step off the cliff and you're at the bottom of the valley. You're in the abyss. And then there's moments of fog. There's moments when there's no clarity to life. So Jim Collins and his research team, for 10 years, they collected biographies, books, articles, videos of, obviously these are more well-known people because that's where all the research is. And that's where books have been written about people who are more well-known and more famous. And so he acknowledges that it's not necessarily the normal, like your neighbor down the street type person, but this is people where there's lots of information collected about them, because what Jim Collins wanted to know is, how do people build a life that is meaningful and that is successful to them? Not necessarily in the eyes of the world, but successful in the way that brings meaning and purpose to their lives. And so he studied people who had these moments when they stepped off of a cliff, moments when they walked into the fog. And here's how he defines fog. Fog is when you go through a phase of immense uncertainty and lack clarity about the best path forward. Anyone ever been there before? You've been in the fog wondering, where in the world do I go? Perhaps even having no clear idea where you want to go. Now, here's some examples of the fog that he gives, some forms of the fog. Fog of youth, when you're just trying to figure the whole thing out. And you're trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do with my life? But then there's the fog of disappointment. You've tried something, it hasn't worked. Maybe it feels like a failure. The very thing that you were trusting in, that you had put your faith in, it's no longer there. And so you find yourself unclear about how to move forward, about how to build your life from that moment on. What about the fog of success? You have achieved the very thing that you wanted to achieve, and then you're left wondering, well, what's next? I've done the thing that I've wanted to do, that I've poured all my time and energy into for 15 years. And well, now that I've achieved this, I'm at the top of the pinnacle here. Where do I go from here? Or what about this one? Fog of retirement. You've held this identity for so long that is no longer there, and you have all this time left, and you're wondering, what in the world will I do with my life? Here's something that I read yesterday in this book. This is why you should go read this book. If you're over 60, I know some of us here are over 60, a few of us over 60. Okay. One of the things that he noted is he took the average of pages, the average page numbers in 3 biographies of Benjamin Franklin. And what he discovered is that post 60, for Benjamin Franklin, 53% of those books were devoted to talking about his life, which means that the majority of things that the biographers found important about Benjamin Franklin's life occurred after he turned 60 years old. So if any of you are wondering, is my life over? Do I have anything left to give? Look to the example of Benjamin Franklin. You have plenty left to give. I found that absolutely mind-blowing. Now, here we are, our map, because, I got to just come back to it every now and again to ground us in the Odyssey and the wandering journey of Odysseus. Oh, and then we have the wandering journey of Paul as well. So we have it in the Odysseus, or in the Odyssey, in Paul's life, probably your life as well, which means let's talk about who? Michael J. Fox, because you knew that was coming after those 2 maps, right? Who knows this guy? Who knows this man? Back to the Future. Anyone love that movie like me? All right, I got like 4 hands, whatever. The rest of you, go watch Back to the Future tonight. It's probably somewhere streaming. You can watch it. If you know anything about Michael J. Fox's life, his life has not been easy. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And of course, if anyone is diagnosed with Parkinson's, especially at such a young age, it's like walking off a cliff. It's like being in a moment of, there's fog all around you, wondering, well, where in the world am I going to go? And Michael J. Fox, Jim Collins talks about him. He uses him as one of the examples in the book in order to talk about how to navigate your way through the fog. And what he talks about in the book is how for a while after this diagnosis, Michael J. Fox tried to keep it to himself. He tried not going public with it because he was wrestling with all the implications for himself about, well, what am I going to do with my life? I'm an actor, but am I going to be able to keep acting? Now that I have this disease, am I going to be able to keep doing the thing that I love to do? And he had to navigate his way through all that uncertainty and the unclarity, trying to figure out, well, how do I build my life from here? Essentially, how do I rebuild my life? Because after you go off a cliff, you have to rebuild your life. Because what was working before, it no longer works. And so he had this period of disorientation where he was trying to make sense of his life and then how he would move forward. Eventually, if you know his story, he founded the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Now, this didn't happen overnight. This was many, many years in the making. And here is the the purpose, the mission statement of the Michael J. Fox Foundation. It's dedicated to finding a cure for Parkinson's disease through an aggressively funded research agenda and to ensuring the development of improved therapies for those living with Parkinson's today. Is this a good thing? Think about all the hope that he has provided for people struggling with this disease. By him embracing his diagnosis, and he admits, there's lots of quotes from his biography in the Collins book, he admits how difficult it is, but he also realizes that because of his fame, because of his notoriety, he's able to bring all this attention to Parkinson's disease that might not necessarily have been brought to the forefront of people's minds. And so he used that cliff period, the time of fogginess, in order to meet some of the great needs within our world. And he has provided great hope for others who are struggling with this disease, saying, we can make it through together. And together, we're going to form a community of people who can support one another, and we are going to do what we can in order to find therapies to manage and hopefully heal, eradicate this disease. Here's how Michael J. Fox describes his journey from diagnosis to forming the foundation. I couldn't say, yeah, I went here, and I went here, and I went there, and then I climbed this mountain, and I saw the wise man, and the wise man told me the answer, and now I know it. Now I'll share it with you. No. Listen to this. It was much more of a wandering journey. He gets the diagnosis. He's trying to figure out. He's going in this one direction. That's blocked. He moves in another direction, trying to go here. That's blocked. Then, through all the steps and the wandering and the trying and the commitment to rebuilding his life, he finds the place where his joy and the world's needs meet. But it wasn't a straight shot. It was years and years of fog and wandering. Following God, rarely, I put there if ever, because yes, it can happen, but rarely does following God move you in a linear path. There's steps to the right, there's steps to the left. The current comes and sweeps you away, and you have to somehow get back on your feet and keep moving forward. When I was younger, I didn't necessarily believe this, and I thought everything should be really easy. Everything should be really smooth. And it felt as if I was trying to shove a square peg in a circle. You ever feel like you're doing that with your life? You're trying to just ram your way forward into what's next. You're trying to force your future. You're like, no, I'm going to get here. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to see that everything happens the way in which I'm expecting and planning. But here's what I have learned along the way when you try to live this way. You find yourself exhausted, frustrated, disappointed, and more inclined to giving up easily. Because, man, that way of living, it is so difficult. Someone has to come along and be like, you know that's a square that you're trying to fit into a circle, right? Like, you know that's never going to happen. Yeah, when I was younger, I'd be like, I don't really care. I'm going to make it happen. Some of you are still like that, right? You know what I'm talking about. So what is the better way? Well, it's this. It's the way of trust. The way of trusting that every step in your life matters and is important to your journey. Even if it feels as if you're going further off course, the invitation is to trust that the Spirit is leading you to a good place. So you have to keep moving. You don't stop. Think about Paul. He tried going here, blocked. Okay, let's go here, blocked. Let's keep moving. Maybe he stayed in a town or a city for a couple of days or for a week or two, but eventually he kept on going. The wisdom for you is the same wisdom for Paul. Is Paul had this fire within him. You all have fire within you for the good desires that God has placed in your heart. Your job is to figure out how to direct that fire and then how to keep fueling it so that you don't burn out and give up, but so that you can keep on moving, even when your steps are blocked. So if there's one thing for you to do this morning, one task for you to do this week, or let's call it an invitation because I like that word much better, it's how do you keep your fire going? How do you keep fueling that fire that you have within your heart? Maybe it's gone dormant. So how do you rekindle that flame? And how do you stay committed to the journey, even when you can't see where that journey is leading you? You stay curious. You experiment. You pay attention. You listen. You feel your way through. And you always remember, and I think this is what we see in the story of Odysseus. It's what we see in Paul's journey. Growth is a choice. Whenever we face difficult moments, we can throw in the towel, we can give up, or we can look at what we're going through as an opportunity for us to grow in our faith and as individuals. And that's a choice that we have to make. We can decide to just give in to what we're going through and let it overwhelm and overtake us, or we can say, what is the growth opportunity in this moment? What is God teaching me? So 3 questions to help you find the way of trust and to keep that fire going. Here's your homework for the week. First question, are there any places in your life where you're trying to force a future right now? You have that square peg and you're trying to jam it into the circle. Any ways you're trying to force your way forward and you wake up every morning exhausted, thinking, I can't keep doing this. Second question, as you listen, feel, and pay attention, notice Paul had a vision. I think in our culture, we don't like to be patient. We want the answer immediately. We want to go on Instagram and find that guru who's going to help lead us down the path that we need. But the way forward doesn't happen in an instant. It happens over time. So as you listen, as you're silent, as you feel your way forward, feel the emotions and everything that's happening within you, as you pay attention to what you're going through, what are you hearing? What are you feeling? What are you seeing? That's how Paul found the way to Macedonia. And then a third final question for us. Where are you being invited today, in this moment, to trust and to take a step? What's the next step for you right now in this moment? Keep moving, keep fueling the fire, keep trusting that the Spirit is leading you to a place that is good, a place that is true, a place that is healing for you and the world around us.